in this game today, we're going to be continuing our openings explorations, except we're going to mix it up a bit, and we're going to be taking a look at a game, and it's good that you walked in because we're doing the Nimzo Larsen today, except Larsen, who's playing the Nimzo Larsen, takes a horrible L from the legend Anatoly Karpov. And this game is sick to me because in the end game, it ends up like Larsen gets like a fortress where it's like king and rook versus king and queen. But Karpov, literally, his king goes from G8 and it walks all the way to F1 in order for him to win the game. It is sick. And keep in mind that this is a rapid game on top of everything else. Played in it's like the Amber Melody tournament. It was in 92. So let's go ahead and jump in. And we've got Larsen from the Nimzo Larsen playing his own opening, and Karpov doing Karpov things. And again, as we've talked about, and these are some of those key notes, like I'm going to ask you questions about what are the 3 things you do in the opening that are good? What are the 3 advantages of chess? Those are questions on the test. I'm throwing that out there right now. Yeah.
Which color is Karpov?
Karpov is playing black. We're looking at the game from Karpov's perspective. Now, to give you those 6 points, breaking it down into 2 categories, remember, we defined a good opening as maintaining a pawn in the center, developing your knights and bishops effectively, getting your king safe by castling. Now, does it have to be word for word as I said it? No. The intent of what I said is more important to understand. Well, yeah, because if you got to work on 2 with note-taking strategies, which is what we're working on in class right now, that if somebody's saying a series of 3, you got to abbreviate. Like when I'm doing my lectures, I'm not writing down the entire lecture because if I was like reading my notes the entire time, I'd look really awkward, right? You're like, your face is down, your head's in the paper, you're like hiding yourself. No, somebody who's natural and relaxed when giving a presentation, I've got bullet points. So like my bullet points before the game was Larsen, Nimzo Larsen, Karpov, the rapid tournament, and the king walk because it's so sick. And literally, I just hit my bullet points. So you got to remember the bullet points in that way. So how many things are there for a good opening? 3. So if I broke them down to one word, castling, which we could define as keeping your king safe. Center, as in control the center, keeping a pawn there normally. And then the last one is minors, as in minors pieces. Okay? Minor pieces being defined as knights and bishops. Got it now? So see how I broke it down into one word each? That's how you got to try to take notes, and you can remind yourself of what it is from that. On top of it, we got the 3 advantages in chess. And remember we talked about gambits last time. I'm probably going to ask you what a gambit is, but I'm not going to define it again. The interplay of 3 advantages is time, material, quality. So time is don't bring your queen out early because you're going to have to move her over and over and waste time. You don't want to give your opponent extra moves. Material is we got extra guys. When you have extra material, it makes it easier to win. And quality, your pieces have a lot of options. Or you've limited your opponent's pieces of their options so they're not good pieces. It's kind of like having a goalie in soccer that's got a broken leg. He has no quality. Like he may as well not even be there. Concept makes sense? Quality pieces are important. Yeah. Yeah, Jackson. Yeah. So, let's go ahead and move forward. Yeah. So, it's a serious middle school class. We got to work on different things as we go. So, E6, Karpov's just, playing solid. And Larsen decides to go with this colors reversed Dutch type structure with F4. And I mean, notice, Larsen is like getting a clamp down on the square is his. But Karpov doing Karpov things, he's just going to develop. He's like, my bishop's bad, so I'm going to put him on a good square. Let's get him on that good square. And now I'm going to get some space. And notice, Karpov's doing what we talked about with a good opening. He's developing all of his pieces, and so is Larsen. Both of them are attacking the center, developing their knights and bishops, and castling. So this is what we're headed towards. Well, we don't necessarily want to develop this guy here because it's going to ruin our control over the e5 square. So that being the case, he clamps down on e5 first. What? Just check. All right. So after knight e5, bishop e7, Karpov just continuing to do his thing. Now white didn't want to do that. White decides to play d3. That way his knight has a square to go to. And this was probably the point in the game where I did not like the way that Larsen played. There's two other options with schemes of development here that could have been chosen. Bishop b5 is one because that bishop tends to be hard to work with and we want to trade it off in the Nimzo Larsen. In which case, probably like rook c8 happens and you have this pin. So you get something going. But Larsen didn't want to waste time. He didn't want to stutter step with his bishop. The other path is going for an all-out attack. And typically, I imagine he didn't go for this idea because of who he was playing. He's basically playing arguably one of the greatest defenders all time in chess. So not somebody you want to go all out against because he just kind of kills your attack and then beats you in an endgame. Queen e1 with queen g3 is an idea to be able to try to attack where the black king is going because it looks like the king's going to be castling kingside. So these were different plans and that could have been done. But d3 was played, and already I think that this is starting an incorrect plan, and this is going to be where Karpov just kind of starts to outplay him. So at this point, both sides by move 10 have completed what we defined as a good opening. Yep. Now, Karpov begins to start pressuring. The focal point and the strength in the position was that knight on e5, so he's going to try to get rid of it. Well, white tries to support it, and then we trade all the knights. Then when we get to this position, notice the difference in structure. Black structure is cleaner, no weaknesses. He's got the pair of bishops. White, on the other hand, this bishop that was silly that I was talking about doesn't have a clear plan. Karpov's bishop that was not really doing anything comes alive. Little tickle tickle on the e-pawn. So now white's got to defend. Now forcing things. The bishop, it always gets me. Every day with the announcements. All right. Toot. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tell me what's for lunch! Garden green beans. Hot dog or mozzarella sticks or hot dog? It's the type of cheese that I wouldn't feed a dog, though. I don't know. Yeah. I joke. I have the cheese sticks sometimes. They're good. Ooh. William Jennings Bryan. What was the quote on Destiny? Yeah, right. I mean, when she goes so fast, I'd like to break it down a little bit.
Something about
Destiny is not something you achieve. It is something. No, you don't earn it. God, what was the second part of the quote? Huh? No. Okay, so let's get focused again. Announcements are done. So after d4, Notice how we're hitting the rook on f3, and Karpov chooses the most forcing variation. It's almost as if good players do that. So now white takes, and there's a mass liquidation that takes place. And at the end of this combination, what we find is black's pieces are better than white's in this ending. And the e-pawn is still a problem. Karpov literally, from the time that he trades his knights off on the square, has fixed a weakness and gone straight into an endgame, which is his strength, with a weakness for his opponent, and he has none. Now he's going to work him. So there's no way to really defend that pawn effectively. But Karpov's not in a hurry because it's not going anywhere. Patience, getting all of his pieces perfect before he does anything. White's trying to get some counterplay, but Karpov's like, you know what, let's keep your rook bad. I'm going to keep it out of the game. Now I'm going to take the pawn since I've gotten some space. You're messing with my weakness? No. No free stuff. You going to mess with my c-pawn? No free stuff. He just eliminates counterplay. His opponent attacks something, he says no. Remember, we've talked about this before with Karpov. Karpov had a style which was considered like a boa constrictor, because his opponents, no matter what they do, it's like being in quicksand. You take away all ideas that the opponent has, they got to lash out and do something. But it's wrong. He punishes it, and then he stops all your ideas again. You can almost hear the squeeze happening as I give that explanation. That's what Karpov does to people. So rook b5, he's threatening mate. So we can't allow the back rank stuff in a lot of variations. So Karpov's like, you know what? h5, my king's just got some luft. And maybe this h-pawn, which I'm currently using to just get defense and have an out for my king, maybe I keep pushing it and this gets annoying eventually. So Karpov, even when he's playing defense, he's setting up aggressive ideas for the future. Rook b7. Like I said, you may be attacking a pawn. Well, I can't defend it. So I'm just going to attack one of yours. So if you take one, I take another one. Some types of defense, that's a version of active defense. Instead of passive defense, just defending something to prevent them from taking. h3. Now, I like this next one. And could we stop the tapping? It's bad enough I see the back of your head. Okay. So after h3, rook f5. And the threat with rook f5, pretty simple. I'm threatening to put this rook on f1. The queen will defend it. It will pin the queen to the king. GG. Make sense? So white tries to get off of this idea, but then the h-pawn comes back with a vengeance. He's sealing the king into this area. King can't run. Now after takes, there's no good way for white to try to get out of this situation. Because say, for instance, if queen takes c5, I imagine it's good game after queen e1. I don't see really any way out of this situation. Next move is going to be mate. Well, there'll be probably a few checks that white can have, but this looks like mate. Makes sense to everybody? Because I'm threatening queen g3 mate as well as rook h1 mate. So in this position, Larsen elects to give up his queen in order to not get mated. But now the only chance Larsen has is this pawn becoming a queen. Make sense to everybody? So rook b7, he's trying to work that pawn. And of course, Karpov is attacking it and watching to make sure that it can't go all the way, as well as having potential ideas to attack the king and bother him that way. So now, it's an important threat to understand. If it was white's move, he could play rook b8 check, and when the king would move, he could queen the pawn, and the rook would defend the queen, white would be winning. So we're simply going to move our king off of that check. White gets another pawn, but we're going to remember that king walk I talked about, going from g8 all the way to f1? This is where it begins. because that's where Karpov needed it. Because his queen is stuck, making sure that that a-pawn's not going anywhere. And all White's just wanting to make a draw here because neither side it looks like they can do anything. But this shows the power of a king in an endgame. Karpov's going to do what he can to improve his position. It's like, go ahead and take another pawn. It's fine. He got the pawn that he needed. And it looks like White set up a fortress. Because if the king is defending this pawn, which is defending this one, and his king just dances, it looks like he's going to be okay. And if the rook defends this pawn, and we got this diamond situation going, it looks like a nice fortress position. But the issue is, Karpov's going to be able to come around. So he's not in a hurry. Now he's defending stuff. King's starting to come in. Now we're threatening discovered check. So he's got to get off that. The king's getting closer. Now he's got to defend the c-pawn, so he's got to go back. Check. Check. Waiting. And most of playing an endgame like this is patience. Like I said, he went from g8 to f1. The journey's complete. And Larsen sees the end after queen f2. There's no way to stop this. Rook takes e5, queen g1 mate. Very, very clean game by world champion Karpov against Larsen, whose namesake is in the Nimzo Larsen. But I was trying to find games that Larsen played, and then I happened on this one, and Karpov's play was just so clean, I had to show it. No disrespect, but you know, you got to mix it up sometimes and show some other ideas.